1.
After dating in secret for 8 years, I was so shocked to discover a 10-carat diamond ring and a hotel reservation my boyfriend was hiding. I was so moved I almost cried. I thought, finally, Ross Stockdale was really going to give me a home. But on our 8th anniversary, I saw a kissing video on Instagram from Zamora Farr, an influencer with millions of followers. It came with a caption, "I went abroad for 8 years. You waited 8 years. Finally, I'm going to marry you." The man in the video was Ross. His hand rested on Zamora's waist, and he was wearing the very couple's ring I'd bought with 3 months of my salary. I stared at the screen, unable to believe it, and then I lost control and bolted out the door. I hailed a cab and raced to the hotel. The car hadn't even arrived when a blaring horn sounded, and suddenly, my body was thrown violently. I felt searing pain engulf every inch of me. At the hospital, the doctor said my baby couldn't be saved, and I needed a family member to sign the consent form. I called Ross over and over. Please pick up," I murmured, feeling myself going numb beneath me. I couldn't help sobbing. And yet, he still didn't answer. It wasn't until the 18th call that it finally connected. In the background came Zamora's laughter. "Ross, is that woman calling to check up on you again?" Ross's voice was hoarse and lecherous when he replied, "Don't bother with her. She's just your stand-in, nobody but an orphan. If she leaves me, she'll have nowhere to go. Even if she knows about us, she wouldn't make a scene. She's just like a cheap dog I raised. I can't get rid of her no matter what. I just treat her like a free nanny who's available to sleep with me." That was when my nearly 2-month-old baby came out of my body as flesh and blood. I closed my eyes in despair. They didn't know the truth. I was the real heiress of the Farrs, the richest family in the city. Zamora was only a fake heiress taking my place. A month earlier, my parents had tracked me down and begged me to come home and run the family business. I refused back then. But after my surgery, I called my mother. "Mom, I've thought it through. I'll come home and take over the family business. I agree with the marriage you set up for me, but listen, I want Zamora kicked out from the family."
1.
I thought my mother would hesitate, but to my surprise, she agreed almost immediately. "All right, I'll handle this myself." Her voice was calm, but beneath that composure was anger she'd buried for years. If it hadn't been for Zamora's mother, that nanny, switching you two while I was unconscious from a difficult labor, you wouldn't have grown up in an orphanage for more than 10 years. "We missed you because of her. Don't worry, sweetheart," she went on. "I'll make sure Zamora leaves. And Marcel, her mother, she won't escape either. I'll have the lawyers gather evidence and send her to prison." I shut my eyes, feeling a sting in my nose. "Thanks, Mom." Her tone softened at once. "Silly child, don't think too much. Your birthday is coming up next week. I'll hold a grand homecoming party for you, so everyone knows you are the real daughter of the Lumleys." Then she added gently, "And about your engagement, I've already set you up with someone." I replied quietly, "I'll listen to you, Mom." After a few seconds of silence, I reminded her, "Don't tell Zamora about the birthday party yet. And about those investments I asked you to arrange before, stop them all." "Okay, I'll do as you say," she replied casually. Not long after we hung up, a message from an unknown number popped up on my phone. "The one who isn't loved is the third party. Do you know? A month ago, when you were robbed abroad and called for help, Ross was in a hotel just 2 streets away from you. He made love with me 7 times. I froze for a few seconds, my breath catching in my throat. Another message came right after. "The car accident was just a warning. If you keep clinging to him, next time, I'll take your life." My fingers trembled. A chill spread through me, bone deep and cold. So today's car accident wasn't an accident after all. Zamora. It turned out, she set it up. My vision burned red as my hands clenched into fists, my knuckles whitening. A moment later, I forced myself to take a deep breath and calm down. I took screenshots of the texts and sent them to the assistant my mother had assigned to me, instructing her to investigate every suspicious detail about the crash. Zamora killed my child. I wasn't going to let her get away with it. Once everything was arranged, I opened the Instagram video again. The screen glowed with dim, romantic light. Ross had his arm around Zamora's waist, lowering his head to kiss her deeply. He lifted a champagne glass, smiling with that familiar tenderness and confidence. And I saw it clearly. On his finger was the ring I had saved for months to buy for him. At that point, my eyes blurred. The image before me started to fade. I still remembered the day I gave him that ring. His eyes had gone red as he knelt on one knee and swore, "One day, I'll buy you one even better, even more expensive." But now, that better and more expensive ring was gleaming on another woman's finger. In the background of the video, their friends' laughter echoed. "After 8 years, you two finally made it official." Ross is so devoted. Can you believe he waited 8 years for Zamora? That diamond ring? He had it custom-made 8 years ago. My fingers started to shake. I had to look away and breathe between glances, or my tears would spill over completely. 8 years. For 8 years, not a single one of his friends knew who I was. But they all knew Zamora. I had asked him before why he never took me to meet his friends. He just smiled and said, "No need. They don't really like crowds." Back then, I foolishly believed him, thinking, people nowadays are socially anxious and not liking socializing is normal. But it turned out it wasn't that they didn't like crowds. They just didn't like me. Suddenly, the hospital room door opened. Ross stood there, holding a cake, smiling just like he used to. "Happy anniversary, baby. I'm late. Are you mad?" Streamers, roses, mango cake. It was the same old routine for 8 straight years. If I hadn't lived through everything that happened today, I might have been moved to tears just like before. But now, all I felt was irony. He didn't know that I knew it. Under the glow of those party lights, he had kissed another woman. He didn't know that because of that so-called car accident, I had lost our child forever. The life that was supposed to be a surprise had become the price of his celebration with his other woman. I swallowed the storm inside me and forced my tone to stay calm. "What are you doing here? No matter how busy I am, you're the most important to me." He smiled and sat by my bed, his tone gentle as always. "I was worried you'd be upset after the accident, so I came to keep you company. This afternoon was really an accident. My phone was on silent, so I didn't get your message. Thank God it wasn't serious, or I really wouldn't know what to do, babe." His voice was soft, his eyes full of affection that used to melt me so easily. But now, it only pierced like a blade. This jerk had no idea that on my 18th call, when he finally picked up, I'd heard his voice. He was telling Zamora, "She's just like a cheap dog I raised. I can't get rid of her no matter what." I lower my eyes, my throat tightening. When I stayed silent, he followed my gaze and noticed the phone in my hand, the screen still paused on that Instagram video. He reached over, took it, and pressed the power button. "Stop watching." 2. "This video isn't what you think it is," Ross said in a low voice. His tone was gentle, but there was a hint of impatience behind it. "I only went along with her for business reasons. The richest guy in the FARS is planning to invest in a new company. If I can close this deal, we'll be listed on the market soon. She's just a stepping stone." He paused for a moment, softening his tone. "Yes, Zamora is my ex, but we ended things a long time ago. It's been 8 years since we last spoke. I don't have any feelings for her anymore. I only got close to her because her birthday party is coming up next week, and the richest guy will be there. I've been waiting for this opportunity. Once I get the contract signed, I'll dump her publicly, okay, babe?" I stayed silent for a long time before whispering, barely audible. "And me? What about me? These past few days, what does that make me? Your other woman? Or your ex?" Ross froze, his brows knitting slightly, as if my words had cut him. He gripped my hand tightly, his voice panicked. "Don't say that. How could we ever break up? It's just a week. That's only 7 days, babe. Just hang on a little longer, okay? You've always been the most understanding. Once the company goes public, I'll give you the grandest wedding." I smiled, my tears slipping down. Understanding. He always praised me for being understanding, patient, considerate, and quiet. but I was really exhausted. I didn't want to be understanding anymore. All right, I said softly. I understand. He smiled, reaching out to wipe my tears. His voice was tender, like an echo of a dream. I knew you wouldn't blame me. He lit the candles on the cake. Come on, babe, let's make a wish together. Once we blow them out, it'll be our 9th year. This year, we're finally getting married. Our 9th year? I stared at the flickering candles, not blowing them out. Just as he was about to urge me, his phone rang. He picked it up instinctively. Ross, I twisted my ankle. It hurts so bad. Can you come pick me up? I'm alone by the roadside, and there are some creepy strangers watching me. I'm really scared. Zamora's delicate voice came through the speaker, carrying a familiar intimacy. Ross's expression changed instantly. He stood up in a hurry. How could you be so careless? Don't be scared. I'm coming right now. He blew out the candles, kissed my cheek, and said quickly, Babe, I'll just be gone for a bit. She's a girl. She's not safe out there alone. I'll be right back. Before I could finish, he had already rushed out of the hospital room. I stared blankly at the door. My heart was eerily calm. I looked at the cake and flowers on the table, my eyes devoid of any warmth. Then I threw them all into the trash. Ross, I thought, there won't be a 9th year for us. The next day, I insisted on being discharged. That car accident, it's hard to say if it was good news or bad. The good news was I didn't break any bones. The bad news was I lost my baby. Now, all I wanted was to wrap everything up quickly and leave Ross for good. After leaving the hospital, I went straight to the company. That building from nothing to everything was my entire youth. I met Ross in high school. He was the brightest boy on campus, and I was the girl always in the corner, quietly taking notes. Later, when he started his own business, I followed him here. I stayed up late with him, drank cheap coffee, and accompanied him as clients rejected him over and over. In 8 years, his company grew from a tiny rented office to a suite in the tallest building downtown. Every time I carefully hinted at marriage, he would ruffle my hair and say, It's not time yet. I want to give you a better life. I understood his pride. I didn't want to pressure him. Even when my parents finally found me after all these years, I didn't tell him. I thought that once his career was stable, everything would finally change. That day, I found a ring box in his pocket. I almost held my breath, thinking he was finally going to keep his promise. But the ring wasn't for me. I handed in my resignation to the HR. The manager looked shocked. You're quitting? But you're about to get promoted. I smiled. I'm going home to get married. I'll be working from home from now on. Patty Han blinked. Huh? You're not an orphan? My smile faltered. For 8 years, Ross and I had kept our relationship a secret. Whenever he showed me special treatment at work, he'd joke, her family situation is complicated. I just try to look out for her. Everyone thought I worked hard because I had no one else to rely on. No one knew I was the woman behind his success. I lifted my chin and smiled. I found my family. Patty was stunned for 2 seconds, then she smiled. Oh, that's wonderful. Congrats. Before I could reply, I heard familiar footsteps approaching. Ross walked in, wearing a dark gray suit, his expression as cold as ever. His gaze fell on the resignation letter in my hand. He asked me in this deep, sharp voice, What family? 3. It's nothing. I cut off whatever my coworker was about to say. Ross's brows furrowed slightly, as if he wanted to ask more. But before he could, the sharp clack of heels echoed from the hallway. Ross. That soft, sweet voice drew everyone's attention instantly. Zamora walked in with a charming smile, her figure graceful, her hips swaying slightly as she leaned almost naturally against him. Ross's expression shifted. The tenderness on his face was so unfamiliar that I barely recognized him. A faint smile tugged at his lips. Everyone, let me introduce someone. This is our new technical director, Zamora Farr. The office fell silent for a few seconds. Then came the murmurs, spreading quickly like an undercurrent. Someone snuck a glance at me, then quickly looked away and put on a bright smile to greet Zamora. Welcome to the team, Director. I didn't stand up. I just kept my head down as I gathered the files on my desk. For years, I had worked hard in the company, countless overtime, staying up late to finish proposals. Everyone knew Ross had once said the next technical director would be me. But now, the honor that should have been mine was stepped on and swept away by her breezy little words. The new director. I told myself I shouldn't care any more about matters like this. After all, I'd already turned in my resignation. But now that I was facing it for real, my chest still tightened painfully. Zamora tilted her head with a practiced smile. I hope you'll all look after me from today onwards. She stopped in front of me, leaning down slightly and speaking gently. I've heard from Mr. Stockdale that you're his most capable assistant. Seeing you in person really lives up to the reputation. Her voice was sweet, like sugar coating, but in her eyes, I caught the sharp glint of disdain. I lifted my head, met her gaze, and calmly reached out my hand. The moment our fingers touched, Ross's slender hand covered mine lightly. That's enough, he said in that low, gentle tone, one that somehow carried both indulgence and command. He turned to Zamora. Come on, I'll show you my office. She blushed faintly and lowered her head. Okay. The room instantly buzzed with energy. Someone blurted out jokingly, Sir, that's pretty close for just colleagues. Miss Zamora doesn't seem like just a director, huh? Ross glanced back, his lips curving in a faint but casual smile. She's my fiancée. At those words, the air froze. Then came the outburst, cheers, gasps, and congratulations all at once.
Fiancé?
Are you serious? Sir, you really kept that low-key? Zamora covered her mouth with a dainty smile, her voice soft and perfectly measured. We're getting married soon. I hope you all join the party. Applause and laughter rippled through the room like waves. People crowded around them, smiling and offering congratulations. Ross stood in the middle of it all, calm, collected, wearing that same gentle smile on his face. Meanwhile, my world fell completely silent in that instant. I lowered my eyes, feeling my heart twist tight. I told myself over and over that I didn't care anymore. But standing there, the pain still hit me without warning. I had waited 8 years for Ross to say just one sentence. She's my fiancée. 8 long years. But he'd never once given me a clear, official title in front of everyone. And now, Zamora had only been back for a few days, and he said it as if it were the most natural thing in the world. They look perfect together. I heard Miss Zamora is the Farr's heiress. They're really a perfect match. The CEO really hit the jackpot this time. That ring. Is that a limited edition Cartier? Must be worth over $1 million. Sir Ross has always been so aloof. Turns out he just hadn't met the right woman until recently. Each comment was like a needle pricking my chest from every direction. I listened to their chatter, my throat tightening until it felt hard to breathe. Meanwhile, Ross remained gentle and composed with that pride and radiance in his eyes that everyone envied. Finally, a kind coworker spoke up for me. Issy has given so much to this company. She practically carried every major project. She was supposed to be the next director, right? Replacing her like this just isn't fair. Another voice quickly hushed her. Sho,
Keep it down.
Miss Zamora's the daughter of a very wealthy family. Their marriage could take the company to the next level. Issy's effort can't compare.
Exactly.
She's an orphan. How could she compete with the kind of connections a rich daughter can offer Sir Ross? People just aren't born equal, you know. Their words blended with laughter, each one cutting into me like a small, sharp blade. Quietly, I closed my laptop. I slipped the signed contract and my resignation letter into a folder. Then I stood up and walked steadily toward Ross's office. Through the glass door, I could see him and Zamora inside, giggling together, the air between them intimate. Without hesitation, I laid my resignation letter on his desk. 4. You're quitting? Ross's voice was low and cold, his thin lips pressed into a hard line. What nonsense are you up to this time? Before I could say anything, Zamora let out a chuckle and interjected, Ross, don't be so harsh on her. Maybe she's still not feeling well, and got a little emotional. She turned to me, her tone gentle. Issy, don't act on impulse. Ross is just worried about you. You've been with the company for years. You can't just walk away like that. What does my resignation have to do with you? I looked up at her, my lips curling faintly. That gentle, considerate tone of hers, she carried herself exactly like she was his rightful wife. Ross let out a sneer. Don't bother with her, Zamora. She's just used to getting her way, trying to piss me off by threatening to quit. His gaze swept toward me, cold and sharp. The only reason I let you join the company was because I felt sorry for you, Issy. Don't start thinking you actually matter. Without me, what would you be? You're an orphan. Would you even have what you have now? Orphan. That word exploded in my ears. I couldn't even remember how many times he'd called me that. I used to think his care came from affection and tenderness. Only now do I see it was just pity from someone looking down on me. It felt like something inside my chest tore open, cold pains spreading through me. I clenched my teeth and forced my voice to stay calm. Sir, I'm here to hand in my resignation, not to be humiliated by you. Any reason is not a justification for you to stop my resignation. He froze for a second when I called him sir, but quickly regained that familiar indifference. He shoved my resignation letter back across the desk, his tone sharp and commanding.
Enough.
Stop making a scene. If you're not feeling well, take a few days off at the hospital. Don't embarrass yourself here. Sir, I met his eyes without backing down. My decision's final. The atmosphere instantly went still. Ross finally lost patience, his voice rising. Enough. What more do you want? I was going to promote you sooner or later. Why are you in such a hurry? Zamora's our new director now. She's capable and well-educated, a PhD from a top university abroad. What do you have to compare with that? My fingertips went cold. It felt like the blood in my veins had drained backwards. Every word he said cut deep, slicing through whatever trust I'd had left. Apparently, in his eyes, everything I'd ever done all these years meant nothing. Even my work, to him, was not assistance, but charity. I almost laughed, but my throat felt dry and tight. You're right. I can't compare. So, I added quickly, I quit. I flung the resignation paper at his face. The paper sliced through the air with a sharp, piercing sound. I didn't spare his ashen face another glance as I turned to leave. I'd barely taken a few steps when the sharp click of high heels came rushing up behind me. Wait. Zamora caught up and grabbed my hand. She smiled softly, but her voice rose just enough for everyone in the office to hear. Issy, don't be upset. Ross can be sharp-tongued, but he really cares about you. You've been by his side for years, at home, at work. That's loyalty. That's love. The way he's treating you now, it's his fault. She paused delicately, then added, but now that I'm here, Ross doesn't need you anymore. Don't cling to him like this, or use resignation to guilt-trip him, all right? Gossiping eyes turned our way, sharp as knives. I could practically hear the rush of blood in my ears. Zamora, I snapped. Whatever's between me and Ross has nothing to do with you. I tried to pull my hand free, but she cut me off again with that same soft tone. Don't be like that. I didn't mean anything by it. Then she leaned closer, her voice laced with pity, as if she were talking to someone who'd already lost everything. You've always wanted to marry him, haven't you? Then let me be generous. Try on a 10-carat diamond for once. Before I could react, she actually slipped the ring off her own finger and tried to shove it onto my middle finger. The band was too tight. My knuckle turned white under the pressure. The pain made me shove her away. Ah, she cried, stumbling dramatically down the floor. Every pair of eyes in the office immediately snapped toward us. Zamora braced herself on one hand, her eyes wide and trembling, her voice shaky. Issy, you wanted to marry Ross that badly? Her eyes went red, her tears welling up as she continued. If you just wanted to try on my engagement ring, you could have just said so. Why push me? I've never blamed you for clinging to Ross all these years. For a moment, I was stunned. Then, I couldn't help but laugh coldly in rage. Who the hell wants your ring?
5.
I tried to pull off the ring that didn't belong to me, but it wouldn't budge. For a moment, I froze. A wave of bitterness welled up from somewhere deep inside, clogging my throat until I couldn't tell if I was more resigned or just heartbroken. The ring was far too small for my finger, and in my ears, I could still hear what his friend said in that video. He's been preparing that ring for 8 years. A bitter smile tugged at my lips. Hadn't I already known he didn't love me? So why was I still surprised? At some point, my coworkers had gathered around, whispering to each other. Their voices pricked at my ears like needles. Could it be true about her and Sir Ross? I heard they used to be close, but now that his fiancé's here, gosh, women and their tricks. Zamora bit her lip, tears slipping down her pale cheeks as she said pitifully, but it was clear you're the one who ripped the ring off my finger. The next instant, Ross stormed in. The moment his eyes landed on Zamora sitting on the floor, his face changed completely. Zamora! He rushed over, shoving me aside without hesitation, and pulled her into his arms. I stumbled and fell hard onto the floor, my bag bursting open beside me. A small clay charm rolled out, a pair of little clay figures we'd made together back when we first started our company. For a second, Ross's gaze lingered on them, and for that 1 second, I foolishly thought he might bend down to pick them up. But then, as if terrified someone might see through him, he raised his foot and crushed them instead. The sharp sound of breaking clay filled the room, fragile and crisp, almost like the sound of something shattering inside me. I stared in disbelief at the scattered fragments. I'd made those by hand when we first got together. They'd stayed with me for 8 years, a tiny, fragile piece of hope I'd carried through everything. Now it was just dust beneath his shoes. Just like our relationship. Ross, my throat tightened, the words barely escaping. Stop making a scene here, he snapped coldly. Return the ring I gave Zamora? My head jerked up, my voice trembling. I didn't take her ring. His brows furrowed as he looked down at me, disappointment and impatience etched across his face. Issy, when did you become so immature? Do you even realize how you look right now, acting like some jealous, crazy woman? Every gaze in the office turned toward me. The whispers spread again. Did she really sleep with him? Probably. He must have taken pity on her and kept her out of sympathy. What a pity. Trying to steal his fiancé's ring? If that gets out. My fingers burned red as I struggled to wrench the ring off, repeating over and over. I didn't take her ring. She's the one who put it on my finger. Ross's expression darkened. He leaned down, speaking through clenched teeth, his voice barely above a whisper. I know you're upset, and I get that you wanted the ring. But can't you stop causing a scene? Don't embarrass yourself like this.
Come on.
Just give it back, he demanded. I raised my head. Tears shimmered in my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. He didn't believe me. He just believed Zamora, without question. Looking at him, all I could feel was fear. Fear of how utterly unfamiliar he'd become. I could take being framed by her. I could take being mocked by everyone here. But Ross, this jerk really thought I would humiliate myself, fight, and lose every ounce of dignity over a ring. At that moment, I almost heard something inside me crack. 8 years together, and it was only now I realized I didn't know him at all. If you don't believe me, check the security footage, I said hoarsely, anger trembling beneath the restraint. Just one look at the footage and... Is that really necessary? His cold voice sliced through my words, his tone sharp with mockery. Why would Zamora, a billionaire's daughter, want to frame you? At this moment, I almost laughed in anger. Zamora sniffled softly, her eyes glistening. I don't understand why Issy would accuse me like this. Ross stepped closer, his voice low and soothing, but it carried the weight of command. Issy, stop it, okay? You know, everything I do, it's for us. Before I could even respond, he reached for my hand. And the next second, he yanked the ring off my finger. The sharp edge of the band sliced through my skin. Blood welled along my knuckle, bright against my pale hand. I gasped as pain shot through my fingertips. His movement faltered slightly. For an instant, his gaze lingered on the bleeding cut, hesitant, conflicted.
He looked like he wanted to say something.
But then that flicker of softness vanished, swallowed whole, as if it had never existed. Under everyone's watchful eyes, he turned away and gently slipped the ring onto Zamora's finger instead. "My fiancé," he said softly but firmly, "is Zamora. Issy and I have nothing beyond a professional relationship." When he finally looked back at me, his expression was so detached it was almost cruel. "Issy, if you're not feeling well, go home and rest." The room fell deadly silent. Even the air seemed to freeze. I stared at him, unable to breathe. The pain in my chest pressed down so hard it hurt to inhale. In a matter of minutes, I'd gone from resigning of my own accord to being publicly dismissed. Of course, he couldn't have the world thinking the orphan he'd taken a pity on had any special tie to him. After a long moment, I let out a quiet, shaky laugh. Then, I reached up and pulled the plain silver ring from the chain around my neck. It was our couple's ring. He'd once begged to wear it on his hand, but he didn't want his coworkers to find out, so I'd compromised and kept it close to my heart instead. "Well, I guess that's that," I said word by word, my voice so light it almost got swallowed by the air. And in front of everyone, I tossed the ring into the trash. "Sir," I said quietly, my voice trembling but cold, "I won't make a scene anymore." When I turned to leave, my steps were surprisingly steady. "Issy," Ross started, but Zamora's hand on his arm stopped him.
6.
With 4 days left until the birthday party, I returned home and began packing up everything that belonged to me, piece by piece, into a single suitcase. The couple's clothes, toothbrushes, mugs, they were all carefully packed, then without hesitation, tossed into the trash. Each item carried a memory of tenderness now past, and I was the one to end it all. Once I finished, I sent the suitcase to the address my mom had given me. That night, Ross stumbled through the door, reeking of alcohol and a faint, lingering trace of another woman's scent. His steps wobbled, but the moment he saw me, he smiled and threw himself into my arms. "Babe," his voice was hoarse, softened by drunken warmth. "Are you mad at me again? Don't be like this. I missed you." I recoiled from him, dizzy from the smell of alcohol. He froze, vulnerability flashing briefly across his face. His voice turned husky. "You don't love me anymore, do you? Why are you pushing me away?" I looked at his blurred face, feeling my heart sink bit by bit. "Ross," I said softly, "you're the one who stopped loving me first." But he didn't hear me. He slumped onto the couch and quickly fell into a heavy sleep. The next morning, he rubbed his forehead, sitting up with a dazed look as if he'd forgotten everything about the night before, staring at his wrinkled shirt and smelling of alcohol. Before, after a night of entertaining clients, he would come home to me fixing his clothes and preparing a hangover soup for him. Today, there was nothing. He washed up and came to the table while I quietly ate breakfast. Using his usual habitual tenderness, he wrapped his arms around me from behind. "Babe, what about my breakfast?" I tilted my head slightly, avoiding his embrace. "Forgot to make it." His smile stiffened, a flicker of unease in his eyes. "Yesterday, what happened at the office? I didn't mean it," he said, his voice lowered, cautious and coaxing. "I couldn't offend Zamora. That's why I said those things." "Babe, don't overthink it. Don't get jealous, okay?" I looked up at him and simply replied, "Okay." He froze. Clearly, he did not expect my calm. I used to cry when I was sad and make a fuss when I was jealous. But now, even showing one more expression felt like a waste. He was silent for a moment, then suddenly hugged me tightly, his voice low and weary. "Babe, tonight let's go to the hot spring resort, okay? It's my fault. I've been too busy lately. Tonight, I'll make it up to you." He always knew the right way to soften me, but now it only felt ironic. If he truly cared, how could he not notice that this home had already become empty? He kissed my forehead and left with his usual smile. I didn't stop him. I had intended to go to the resort to remove that lock. We had hung it there 8 years ago. If I didn't take it down, it would just feel unlucky. By evening, I was ready to leave. But Ross still hadn't come back. He sent a message. Sudden business trip. Next time, okay, babe? Be good. We'll go when I come back. I stared at the message with no reaction and opened Instagram. Ross didn't even know I had an account. He always thought I was old-fashioned and wouldn't be online. That's why he acted so brazenly, thinking I could never uncover the truth. I refreshed Zamora's feed. My pupils constricted when I saw the latest post, a photo of a prenatal checkup dated today. The caption read, "Baby, Mommy and Daddy are so excited to meet you." Ross's comment was first. "Daddy will love Mommy well." I blinked rapidly, trying to suppress the breakdown. My baby had quietly passed away, unnoticed, while Zamora and Ross's child was being celebrated in public. The business trip Ross had told me about, it was to be with Zamora and their child. I thought I couldn't feel sad anymore. But when I turned off my phone, I couldn't help but cry out loud. I had always dreamed of having a family and a child of my own. But the family I longed for never came, and my child was taken from me because of Zamora. I wiped away my tears hard. It didn't matter. Now I had real family. The next day, I drove alone to the hot spring resort.
Sorry, ma'am.
The place has been reserved for a private event tonight, the staff said reluctantly. I frowned. Reserved by whom? Miss Zamora and Sir Ross, ma'am. I froze where I stood. Moments later, laughter came from not far away, cutting through the air. "Oh, Ross, this place is so beautiful," Zamora exclaimed, her voice bright and light. Ross's voice followed. "This is where we used to come, remember? We promised to be together forever." His tone was so gentle, it was almost unbelievable. So this was his version of being busy, reliving old memories. I kept a cold face as I handed over my family's black card. The staff called and promptly moved aside, greeting me respectfully. Soft lights glowed over the resort. Mist rose from the hot springs. I saw Ross holding Zamora's hand as they walked to the hilltop. They stopped in front of a weathered blue heart-shaped lock. Zamora touched it and smiled. "Ross, you remember this, right? We locked it here back then." "Of course, I remember," he replied, gentle and patient. "I come here every year to tighten it. Zamora, I've been waiting for you to come back." He lowered his head and kissed her softly. Zamora playfully pushed him away. "But didn't you bring other women here every year?" He chuckled, eyes full of affection. "Don't mind them. They're just stand-ins. I just missed you so much that I needed a shadow." My feet froze. My whole body stiffened. 8 years ago, Ross had brought me here to confess. I had looked at that same blue lock with envy. "They must be happy. Maybe they even grow old together," I said. He wiped the sweat from my forehead and locked our silver lock beneath the blue one. "Don't be jealous of them. We'll grow old together, too." Apparently, that blue lock was never a stranger's. It was his past with Zamora. All these years, we had come back here countless times and walked past both locks countless times. I never once thought that the lock I'd envied for years held their memories. "Ross, during all those times you were with me, who were you thinking of? When you pretended to be clueless, were you mocking my naivety? Did you think an orphan wouldn't have the courage to leave you, even knowing the truth?" Only now did I truly understand what the 18th hospital call had meant when they said, "Stand in." I didn't step forward. I just turned around and walked away. My chest felt hollow, as if something had been carved out of it. Even anger felt too expensive to afford. The love lock didn't need to be taken down anymore. Under that blue heart lock, our silver lock no longer had a place. I immediately booked a flight home and got on the plane that very night. 3 days later, at my birthday party, Ross and Zamora would receive a gift they'd never forget. 7. Over the past 3 days, Ross had been traveling around the world with Zamora. In every city they landed, she made sure to take photos, check in, and post updates online. Their couple photos quickly earned them the media label of a power couple, And in just a few days, Zamora's Instagram followers shot up by hundreds of thousands. She became the envy of every socialite. Meanwhile, she had already announced that her birthday party, which was 3 days away, would be live-streamed so fans could share in her happiness. The comment section exploded. Zamora is so sweet to her fans. Show us the party decors. The life of a real heiress. It's a dream Cinderella could never reach. I stared at the post for a long moment before silently shutting off my phone. 3 days from now, it would be my birthday. The party hall glittered with lights, and guests had begun to arrive. Zamora wore a pale gold gown, smiling like a blooming flower. Ross arrived a little early with a few business associates and was seated in the reception area. He looked slightly irritated. He hadn't heard from me in several days. In the past, whenever he went on a business trip, I would send him countless messages. Even if he didn't have time to respond, I always kept checking in on him. But these past few days, his phone had been eerily quiet. Today wasn't just Zamora's birthday. It was also the anniversary of the day I was left in an orphanage. Ross couldn't help but worry. He found an excuse to step aside and call me. But no one answered. He then tried calling the household staff. A polite voice responded. "Ma'am, Issy hasn't returned home in several days, sir." Ross's expression darkened, his voice cold and measured. She's an orphan. Where could she possibly run off to? And now, she's using a little disappearing act to annoy me. Ridiculous. I bet she'll be back begging me soon enough. A friend approached with a teasing smile. "Your little side thing is still in touch, huh?" Ross glanced at Zamora without missing a beat.
No.
Ended long ago.
Good.
Miss Zamora is the one who's truly right for you, his friend said softly. Everyone knew about my existence. They just never wanted to acknowledge it. A poor girl without parents didn't belong in their world, so I was simply ignored. Ross masked his irritation and smiled. Meeting Zamora is the luck of a lifetime. Zamora's cheeks flushed instantly, and the crowd laughed and cheered. The live stream chat was full of congratulations and repeated 99 plus sus. Then her best friend leaned over, whispering urgently. Zamora's smile faltered. "Are you sure?" she asked. Her friend nodded. Zamora clenched her teeth, feeling a jolt of bad luck. Today was her birthday, and she planned to have her father marry her off to Ross. If he discovered Ross had a mistress, there was no way he would agree. She could not allow any mishaps today. Zamora glanced at Ross and suddenly stiffened. Her eyes reddened. Covering her neck with trembling hands, she said, "Ross, my necklace. It's gone." "What necklace?" Ross frowned immediately. "It's a family heirloom from my father. An emerald. It's priceless." She bit her lip, on the verge of tears. Just like that, chaos erupted in the party hall. Ross acted fast. "Don't panic. The hall is temporarily sealed. No one can leave. Whoever took it is still here. I'll get the doors locked." He strode out, leaving Zamora behind, her gaze dropping. She turned to her friends. "Maybe we should check the main hall. I was over there earlier with my bag. It might have been left there." Her friends nodded, and they headed to the main hall, only to see me carrying my bag, heading upstairs. Zamora froze. "That's Issy. How did she get in?" Her best friend immediately raised her voice. "I saw her sneaking around nearby. Maybe she took the necklace." Guests turned and cameras zoomed in on me. Zamora's expression flickered with something complicated, but she quickly smiled softly at the live stream audience. "Don't misunderstand. She's Ross's assistant at the company. I didn't expect her to be here today." Her tone was polite and gentle, but it hinted at my connection to Ross. All eyes then shifted to me. I went to the FAR company this morning to finalize some handovers. I had planned to change into a different outfit afterward, but Zamora and her friends intercepted me. I stopped, curious to see what scheme they were up to this time. Her best friend stepped forward, her voice sharp. "You didn't sneak in pretending to be a hotel staffer, did you? Look at how shabby you're dressed. Definitely up to no good. Where's the necklace? We know you came from humble beginnings. Seeing something valuable must have tempted you. I can't believe you'd try stealing in front of everyone."
8.
"Do you have any proof I stole something?" I cut her off, raising my voice. The crowd around us burst into mocking laughter. Proof?
Please.
She's from an orphanage. How innocent could she be? Probably never even touched a gemstone before. People like her grow up taking what isn't theirs. Filthy habits, no upbringing. It's pathetic, really. Why don't we search her? Make sure she doesn't run off. A few male guests stepped forward, ready to grab me. I yanked my arm free in disgust. Just as I was about to speak, Zamora's soft, tearful voice broke through. Don't do this. Maybe she just made a mistake once. But that kind attempt of her to defend me only poured oil on the fire. Shut up, I snapped coldly. I'll say it again. I didn't steal your necklace. Her eyes reddened, her voice trembling as she choked out, Issy, that necklace was a birthday gift from my dad. It's really precious. If you like jewelry, I can give you something else. But could you please return that one to me? The gentler her tone, the more it sounded like she was shielding me out of pity. One of her friends exploded. You still won't admit it, you filthy thief? You've got no parents to raise you right, so your jealous Zamora has a real family, huh? Face darkening, I pulled out my phone, ready to call someone to check the surveillance footage. But before I could dial, a shadow fell over me. Ross stormed in from outside the hotel, grabbed my wrist, and smacked the phone out of my hand. His voice was low and sharp. What the hell are you doing here? There was panic in his eyes, as if he was terrified I'd ruin the business deal he was working on tonight. Ross, Zamora said tearfully, Issy seems to have taken my necklace. Can you talk to her? Can you ask her to give it back? Her eyes glistened pitifully. The moment Ross heard her explanation, his expression darkened. He turned to me without hesitation. Did you steal it? I said I didn't. Would you believe me if I did? I met his gaze. He froze for a second before looking away, his tone turning ice cold. You took Zamora's ring before, and now you're stealing again? How did you end up like this? So cheap, so shameless. What? Your parents never taught you not to steal? I wasn't even surprised. Ross, you could have just checked the security footage. At your company, you refused to see the truth, and now, this is a hotel full of cameras, and you still won't check before judging me. Sir, one of his business partners said coldly, just search her. That'll settle it once and for all. Empty your bag.
Now.
Caught red-handed and still playing innocent. They closed in around me, circling like vultures. Issy, Ross said flatly. I'll say it one last time. Hand over what you stole. Don't make me forget we were ever colleagues. He looked at me with a hard, warning stare. I wanted to laugh, but before I could speak, someone shoved me hard. I stumbled back, crashing into one of the ballroom pillars. Pain instantly shot up my spine. My purse hit the floor, spilling open. Zamora's best friend immediately lunged forward, dumped out the contents, and pointed at the green gemstone necklace inside. There. That's it. She stole it.